Ta-da.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, Tim. That wasn't easy.
No.
Okay. All right, let me call the meeting to order. It's 8:04. And I'd like to switch up the agenda briefly. As I just mentioned before the meeting started, Open Space is offered to fund the note taker for this meeting and the next meeting. And that would be Suzanne McAuliffe. So, do you want to know the chief?
Usually it says there's somebody on the line. Suzanne, are you on the line by chance?
So she's unable to attend this morning.
She wants to be on this thing?
She's going to work off the recording.
Oh, she won't be calling in? She won't be listening?
No.
Oh.
She informed me of that. And welcome to any other visitors who are here this morning. Okay, so should we take a vote on that? A motion and a vote on that?
She's going to do the minutes, you said?
So Open Space is offered to pay for the minutes for this meeting and the next meeting.
I think they have to vote.
Okay, so we're all in agreement that that's fair to do?
Well, I do have a problem with that in the sense of what happened last night, the last night's meeting, because we were talking about our survey, and Tim brought to our attention it was going to cost about $1,200. So us as a board of selectmen thought where the funding would come from if each commission would chip in to pay for that, and we were told that the Open Space wouldn't chip in unless they had jurisdiction over the property.
Actually, they offered to pay for the whole thing, but they had to be given jurisdiction of the property before.
Right. So I just think if they pay for these minutes that they're going to think they have jurisdiction over this property.
Well, can't the town just pay for the minutes? I mean, is that like a big deal to do that?
1,200. Which one?
No, for the minutes. The 1,200, I feel like.
Well, I think once we get going, committees generally don't have a clerk. If you want to have a clerk for a couple of meetings to record it, fine. But
Yeah, I don't see this having to be 20 meetings. You know what I mean? What we're trying to accomplish here.
Yeah. So if they're willing to do that without any give and take, that's...
Yeah, there were no strings in the discussion about the minutes.
But then,
they're obviously investing a little bit, so there is, some...
Right, but just those comments last night, we were told by our finance director that they said they would if they didn't pay for the whole thing, they would.
Yeah, but
I think it's a little...
Our management's fine with covering, even if we have to cover the Open Space doesn't want to contribute anything, we'll cover the difference. I don't see that being a problem with our commission.
It's probably $17 an hour since she's not here.
It bothered me when I was brought up last night, and I just wanted to say nothing.
Yeah. I think it's a fair consideration. But they've offered to do it just for this meeting.
Yeah, that's fine. No,
there's no huge skin in the game.
Let's put it this way. If there's a future meeting after that still requires a recording secretary, then another committee will pick up.
Yeah, each one, maybe one committee pays for each one.
Rotate out.
But usually the minutes aren't that complicated.
That's what I mean.
So
I'm still going to need them.
Okay. So is everybody in agreement that we'll let Open Space pay for this meeting next meeting?
I'll make a motion to accept the offer from Open Space to pay for Suzanne McAuliffe to do the meeting minutes, provided that there is no caveat or strings attached. However,
for the first two meetings.
Yeah, first two meetings.
All right.
I'll second that.
Okay, Sloan seconds. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. And so just a quick note, Suzanne's not familiar with all our voices, so if you make a comment...
That was John Measham making the motion.
Yeah. And Sloan seconded it. Thank you. Okay. So then approval of the minutes. I hope you all had a chance to look them over. Thank you, Matt, for doing it. Appreciate it.
Short and sweet.
Okay. A motion to accept those?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Mike Barnes motioned. Second? Okay. Mike Aurelio seconded. Okay, thank you. Okay, I just want to make a few remarks before we get started.
Got a vote on it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Thank you, Tim.
I'm just going to abstain because I missed the meeting. John Measham.
Okay. All right. I just want to have a few remarks. This is our first formal meeting as a group. Look, I think my personal view, this is a good project, and again, my personal view, I think it's great that Harbor Management brought this to the attention of the town. And so far, I've sensed a lot of, a positive attitude among all the members here. We want to solve this problem in a congenial way. So I think we need to just look forward and find out what finding a solution to this. And I'd like to try to keep the meetings as short and to the point as possible. So if you have comments, try to keep them to the point. And, we're all just reminding you, we're all trying to work for a solution here that gives people access to the property, but also, takes care of the environment, preserves the environment. Look forward to working with everybody here on this. So, new business. The survey, I think we've already got a bit of a jump start on that since the last meeting, and I think, Tim, you might be the appropriate person to give us an update on that.
I spoke with Dick Gates, and he offered to do the appraisal for $1,200. He's done work on one side because he did a survey for Amanda Blair, and I guess I think he probably has a copy of that old 1950-something. That probably would be informational, not gospel, so he would, he's seen it, so I think it wouldn't be too challenging. If the wetlands flagging by Snarsky, who generally does the wetlands flagging for the town, is incorporated, it might be do the two, maybe not simultaneously, but at least in one assignment, so that information can be put onto the survey. So we haven't made at least I am not aware that Snarsky's been contacted, but that would likely be something that would complete that part of the project to get those two pieces together. So whatever the flagging would be a minor cost comparatively, I think, as to the survey. So we could get that going. So I think Dick is looking to slot it somewhere, but obviously we need to iron out the cost of it and where it comes from and so forth.
So are you saying we need to coordinate the wetlands marking with the survey?
Personally, the wetland marking should come first, so when the surveyor comes in, he can delineate where the wetland scientists had delineated the wetland lines. So the surveyor, when he comes, he can mark the tidal wetland flags based on where he finds them in the field.
Yeah. Well, they've worked together in the past, so we could get a cost estimate from Snarsky, but maybe, I don't know, $500.
That's what I was thinking. It should be more than $500.
Yeah. So under 2,000, for the whole thing probably would be a safe bet. And then once we are sure where things are, we can pull the trigger.
So how do we coordinate that? Do we rely on Gates to coordinate with Snarsky to get them? Do we have to step in?
Yeah, and I could endeavor to get a hold of Snarsky to work on it.
You'll do that?
And get the timing and so forth. But maybe by the time we break, we'll have a little more clarity on how finances might work.
Okay.
So, the one thing is that we do have a survey. We do know where the monuments are. We've been able to field locate those, right? So, as you move forward towards an application, the updated survey, the updated wetlands obviously come into play. I think the 1,200, I don't know if that's on the high side, seeing as we already have a base survey to work off of. I don't really know. I don't know if the other gentleman, Mr. Case, has seen this survey or not. My hope is that we don't have to wait around on the survey for anything else to start putting this thing together on other aspects. Personally, I don't know how anybody else feels, but...
Well, I think the survey is the critical part of the information we need to plan what's going to happen. Know where the wetlands are, both tidal and inland wetlands. The contours would help.
Yeah.
And, knowing exactly where the right-of-way helps locate all sorts of things, where you might do the potential parking, where you might go in for the structure. I think that's the critical element. I mean, you never really, in a land use agency, the first thing is who's doing it and what are they doing, and it's on a map, and someone reviews and approves what's proposed and on the map. Because that locates where what's proposed is going to happen.
Yeah.
Tim, did Mr. Gates give you any indication of when he would be able to accomplish this?
We didn't say do it on August X, but I think it would be fairly close at hand.
Yeah, I called the Gates' office a couple of weeks ago and asked them what the time frame would be, and they said basically 2 to 3 weeks from the word to go.
So can the selectman's office pay for it initially and then batter it out afterwards? I still think the best way to do it is to split the cost between the three commissions.
I agree.
The three commissions. Should be totally neutral. Nobody pays for it completely. And
Yeah, I don't know whether inland wetlands would buy into that or not, but is the
I think we would very much buy into that.
Yeah.
Since we're wetland marking, I think it's appropriate.
Okay, do you think,
split the cost.
so you think that roughly $300 or something like that? No, maybe more.
400,
Three,
yeah.
four.
Well, it's going to be more like
I guess
600 or
Even if it's
700.
1,000 for each of us, like,
Yeah.
that's more than
Some of
palatable.
these boards and commissions don't have much miscellaneous money hanging around.
Yep.
You guys have your own little cookie jar.
Well, it's not that much, but yeah.
Oh, come on.
It's pretty insignificant in my opinion, but I'd like to see more, but we'll work on that separately.
All right, well, that's a good start. I mean, if at the end of the meeting, we're all pretty much agreed that we can muster the money one way or the other, then we'll ask these people to get going and do it.
All right, well, just everyone from each representative from each, just reach out to your chair, and if your chair agrees with it, then just email them and say we'll chip in, and then he can make a phone call. That's fair.
Yeah, that works for us.
Okay.
Okay, well, so 2 things here. So we're going to agree to hire Snarsky and Dick Gates for the
And
flag
as possible,
survey.
was appreciated.
Okay.
So how about a motion for that?
I do like the idea of the selectmen being able to but while we all coordinate getting the money from each account, if we can just,
they're not going to ask for their money up front anyway. They're
Yeah.
going to
Send us
Dick
over.
knows us well enough.
Sure.
yeah, so then
Name is Snarsky.
what do we got to do? Just initiate a contract with that gentleman.
So,
This month, yeah.
Tim, you'll initiate a contract this week?
Yeah, well, I doubt it'll even be a contract. I think it'd just be,
Thumbs up.
yes.
Okay.
Great.
All right, well,
I'll make contact with those 2 people. I can report back who's going to do what and when.
Okay.
And then we'll then quantify it and then
Yeah, hopefully it'd be nice to have.
Slice and dice.
Before the next meeting, so when we come to the meeting, we can, or even do whatever.
I mean, we can't force these commissions to pay for this. We just have to go and suggest it and hope that they agree,
Right.
which I think there's a good possibility in that.
This is a benefit to the whole town.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's the town taxes they're paying for it one way or the other.
Right.
Whether it's coming out of that fund, this fund, it's all.
it's a shell game.
I agree, it's just a formality.
Okay.
I think we can't today decide they're all going to pay, but
Right.
we can certainly prod them to do so, and, yeah, anyway. So let's get the Rollins marking and survey out of the way.
All right, I'll make a motion to employ Mr. Gates and Mr. Snarsky for surveying and wetlands marking.
Okay, that's John Measham.
I'll second that motion, Michael Barnes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. And I think we all have our little homework assignment here to talk to our respective commissions about covering the cost. Okay. So the next item, C, signs along the drive, that's a little nebulous, kind of covers a lot of issues. I know there are some concerns about the no trespassing signs, acting to discourage people from going down there. So that's one thing we could talk about. Also, may not be able to do this right away, but with the intent of beginning to open it up for public access, what kind of signs would we post? What's the appropriate thing to do to, get people to come in and also respect the boundaries? So I guess Are there any other concerns about signs that I've missed?
Well, only, Sloan here, only that, maybe in the short run, put signs up, but in the longer run, we want to have, signs that are attractive. You know, we may not be able to decide on that this second, but, you know, in the interest of putting signage up, but it may not be the final signage, that's all I'm suggesting.
So I want to jump ahead for the discussing goals. I think they're going to be short-term and long-term goals, so you address that in that.
Well, maybe one of the sign issues is the no trespassing sign, which is up top.
Yeah.
I think Blackhall should be able to have signage delineating their property. It might be down closer to where there's an access point to the gravel pit.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that little sign up top is a major deterrent anyway, so we could talk to Phil about that, Phil Neaton, and say, how about we situate a sign on the right side of the road going down so it's clear that that is your property. You don't want people being sightseeing in there and dumping stuff, number two. But
Yes, I just want to backtrack a little bit. So I heard this was a concern, so let's flesh it out a little bit and see how much of a concern it is and what we need to do.
My concern is that we leave this meeting and we still don't have an agreement on signs. So I would like to see that we come to a consensus today, whether it's through a vote or otherwise, that we address signage immediately, like a public access sign now. Like, I don't think we should be waiting around to get a public access sign. It might not be the final sign, but I'd like to see a public access sign at the end of that driveway, like within the next week, personally. Because I feel that the lot could be used right now as it sits, and people don't know it exists as it sits, and I think it's setting a bad image while that no trespassing sign is there. We can't do anything about that no trespassing sign. We can ask, we can request.
I wouldn't say that. I think we could ask the club if we took it away from the very beginning and maybe put it down the road or down where the entry is or something. Then it'll be less confrontational at the beginning.
So I think it was the April meeting that we had, we asked Mr. Neaton to turn the sign so that it was on the tree but facing, indicating that the property behind it was private property. Right now, it indicates as you drive into the driveway that you're entering onto private property where it's really, the town has access on the road. I also think that the sign is up a little high, so...
Well, that's probably so people don't remove it.
That is true. I get that. But if you were driving a car, sedan, you're not going to see it as easily as you would if you were in a truck. It's just not in your eyesight line. I think that he said he would do it back in April. It is now August, and it's not done.
That's my point. That's why I feel like, at the very least, we need a sign designating the town's public space at the end of the road right now. Because we can't rely on them to move the sign.
Yeah, my issue with designating it as public space right now is we don't really have a system for, where people are going to park. We haven't really set up the signs where to protect things. And Mike, I totally appreciate you wanting to push this forward, and I think we need that in a commission like this. But I think let's discuss it.
Well, that's
do it a step at a time. So it seems to me the first thing that has to be done would be to rectify these no trespassing signs.
But we can't assume that we have the ability to push them or legislate them in any way to do anything with their sign. It's their property.
Is that true? I mean,
but he said he said at a public meeting he would do it.
I know, but I've asked him. I've called him personally 3 times, and he goes, I don't know what to do. I'm waiting to watch to see what's going to happen. And
well, here's a suggestion. Why don't
we
one or two of us
draft a letter?
Meet with.
I know Phil quite well.
We can call him on the phone right now.
Talk with him and say, look, could we get your okay to move the sign down where it matters, which is closer to where you go into it.
Sides, because you had the dumping on the left, and then you had the what's it called,
the gravel pit,
the leak on the right. So I mean, if you put them right down in those 2 spots facing in.
Yeah, and plus I think if he did a series of signs, kind of in a line, so that you have 2 or 3 signs on the right and 2 and 3 signs on the left, where they stop, their property ends.
I think you almost need, sometime in the future, I think you almost need the property lines, signs at the property lines for the Blackhall and then the abutting property so that people can see, because it's an interior lot, which is obviously makes it more confusing. But I don't think that's going to happen until we have the survey.
Well, to that note, like we know where the property line is on Amanda Blair's side. I think to do her a favor, at the very minimum, we should be putting private property beyond this point. You're leaving town property. This is, beyond this point is private property, no trespassing. Something along. She deserves to have that because right now nothing prevents anybody from the public from driving down there. So if we're
Shared driveway.
What? Yeah, down the shared driveway. So my point is like I don't think we should leave this meeting without having the ability of getting a sign purchased and put down at the very minimum her property line extent to do her that justice of people not coming into her driveway and doing a U-turn. And because people don't know where it is, they're just going to keep driving. And I think that it's not fair.
That call is on both sides of the road.
Yep.
Where they have their, materials on the left. So then the subject property comes in, our property.
So I think as far as permanent siding, we're going to have to wait until we have some actual property lines. But
what we do, the property lines have been delineated. The survey is just going to show topography and wetland delineation, whereas the property monument corners have already been, Amanda Blair paid a surveyor to point them out. So they're not going to change. They're already been delineated.
Well, here's a suggestion. What do you guys think of this? That maybe two of us meet with Phil, possibly Amanda, walk the road again, say, look, this is what, reposition these signs, and get agreement on that.
Well, I think
that takes care of that.
And ask Amanda if she wants
first
private
step.
property sign.
Yeah, and have a discussion.
She may not want it, so let's just let her.
Or she could put it.
Yes, we suggest that she put it up because
And
people
we say,
maybe.
and we do that within a week or two.
But I don't think that. I'm just going to make a motion and see where it falls.
Okay.
I'm going to make a motion that we put a public access sign at the entrance to the road because we know where the property lines are. And in that same motion that we put we don't have to ask her if she wants a private property sign. We want to go out of our way to make sure that people, so let me back this motion back up in a second. But
What would you put on such a sign?
Attention.
No. At the top of the road.
At the top
Wait
of
a
the
minute,
road.
hold on. It has to be seconded before we discuss it.
Well, here's,
You make a motion.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion that we put a sign at the road and a sign at Amanda Blair's property line. Can I get a second?
Saying what? No trespassing?
So now,
You
have to have a second to
discuss it.
discuss.
get it on the
Doesn't
floor and then
matter.
discuss it and then vote it.
So we need a second.
I'll second it.
okay.
so now we can discuss it?
Yes.
Okay. So my intention would be to, while we resolve this no trespassing sign, regardless of the no trespassing signs, this is town property. We need to designate it as such so people know where it is. And it's not, while we're in transition here, it's going to take time. Like we started this in January. It's now August. And people still aren't able to use this property in any way, shape, or form.
So
Okay, I don't think we started this in January.
We started
No,
this
it
in
wasn't
January.
done as a committee.
No, but I've been working on this.
Michael, what would you suggest to be on the sign as far as public property?
Public water, for the road sign, I'd like to see public water access. And then on the,
That's it?
public water access.
But should say Town of Old Lyme Public,
However you want to word it.
because we don't want anyone.
Okay, so when you say public water access, does that mean somebody comes down with a boat of some sort and puts it in the water?
Well, they won't be able to.
See that?
So that's my third, so I'm going to make a motion for 3 signs, okay? One is for the public access sign at the, I don't think it has to say water access. It could just say public access, so we're not specific if you would like, rather.
One idea would be come up with a name for this thing instead of 36-1. I mean, it might be horseneck.
Buttonball landing.
No, well, horseneck maybe.
Horseneck, whatever you want to call it. But I don't care if it's specific, the language. I'm just looking for public, town-owned public, old line public access location. What do you guys normally put on the other public access locations in open space in different areas?
McCulloch preserve is often used, like the McCulloch Preserve or the Bartholomew
Yeah, it says Town of Old Lyme with the name of the property.
Preserve in it. This is not quite a preserve, but
So,
Well, I mean, you know, we also haven't really resolved who has jurisdiction over this property and what they might want to see on the sign.
well,
So I think-
that's why this is just the first step. These aren't our permanent signs. These are just, let's open up the door now and just let's make a little bit of progress somewhere.
I suspect that this has been so well advertised through media stories and public and other kind of social media stuff that anybody that has wanted to visit this area has already been there.
Or they haven't because of the no trespassing.
And to put public access sign now, when admittedly you can't get a boat in there, is I think it's pretty much putting the cart before the horse. I think we need to, let's get the survey going, let's see what we can do, let's delineate a parking area so people can actually use it in the future. Listen, this has been 18 years in the making, so I don't think we need to rush to put signage up that is going to be potentially confusing.
Plus, if we get the black hole,
No trespassing.
get the trespassing sign immediately.
But with him though, you gotta, from a police side of it, for enforcement side, it's supposed to be a sign every 50 yards. I think that's what the statute says, for no trespassing. If you wanna charge someone with no trespass, you can't just have one sign. I think it used to be.
That's his
It has to
problem.
be signed.
Huh?
The sign
That's
has
his
to
problem.
I know, but I'm just saying, he was this big thing, people are trespassing, well, if you mark it properly, then, and if they are trespassing, we can take action. Just one sign's not gonna.
50 yards?
He did,
Every 50 yards, you're supposed to keep.
and he didn't even have,
Yeah.
You can put it more frequently.
Yeah,
I
but
think-
50, I mean, you don't want sign pollution, but I mean, 50 yards isn't really that, I mean, that's probably only to where we parked for the meeting, I mean, or 100 yards in, maybe, you know, it's, you can put two signs.
2 or 3 signs.
Facing inward, that's his property over here, that's it. So when you have that meeting with him, just say maybe a couple signs, but just facing inward, not towards the street.
I also think we need to be good neighbors and not make an assumption that an abutter, wants a sign. I mean, I think we just have to communicate. We have to communicate with Blackhall and communicate with Blair and see
But we've been
what they
communicating.
want before we do it.
We've been communicating with Blackhall several times already. We've asked them to remove the sign.
Again, not as
Not
a committee.
officially,
Yeah.
or something.
I realize you've been working on this for a while, Mike, but as a committee, we haven't really been able to do that. So, I mean, as a compromise going forward, how about we just, maybe two of us meet with the abutters, go through the signs, get that sorted out as a concrete first step. I mean, that is
Personally, I don't feel like we should be negotiating with the abutters on the signage, because this is town property.
We're not negotiating, we're just asking for
Well,
input.
the town property is the 3 acres.
Correct.
You have a right-of-way over private property, so, you can put signage on our parcel, but
not to mention, it would just be nice if we could do something that it's gonna be something that's nice and it's consistent. So the same type of signage going down the road would be so much nicer than if we start putting up staples signs along the passage that are.
well, just up the street, you have the Bartholomew Preserve, and that has a nice, kind of like wooden sign and stuff.
I mean,
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we'll just,
and ultimately, that would be our goal, is to have the horseneck
Consistency.
preserve or horseneck landing or whatever you want to call it. So it looks pretty, and
yeah. So along those lines, is there something to the reverse of the no trespassing sign where you say, oh, this is town property? And mark
Shep-
that so people see that and they know they're on top?
so I think if you look, check with the laws, does it have to be every 50 yards? And then find out if Amanda would want the town to be putting up a sign for private property, and then somewhat discuss with both of them the type of signage that they might like. And then we'll throw our town view in as well later. But we shouldn't, a couple of weeks is not going to make or break it, Michael.
I just have a feeling in a couple of weeks we're going to be having this discussion again, and then maybe a few more weeks after that.
No,
So
in a couple of weeks, we're going to be making signs, so don't worry.
Well, there's a motion on the floor. Is there
Yeah.
more discussion? Let's have a vote.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any more discussion on this? Okay.
It sounds as if there's a short-run answer to this thing, i.e. no trespassing, orange on black. type thing that you get at Staples versus a nice green sign like you'd have at Bartholomew, the longer run. You can't go out and buy a sign that says Town of Old Lyme, you know, blah, blah, blah for the head of the road, right? So I don't know what, some hand-drawn sign or somebody paints it or what.
Well, just like there's the well sign, you know, the firewall sign there. Like I was just thinking underneath the firewall you have a little public access sign. I wasn't trying to get all crazy now, but it is public access, whether they're going in the water or they're going and staring at the bushes. It is what it is. It exists today already as such.
I just think there's some confusion what that sign actually looks like and what we would put up, to Sloan's point. So
I guess Black Hawk Club would have to take the initiative to post its parcels.
Correct.
We could tell them it should be 50 yards apart, and if you want red on black or pink on blue, whatever you want.
They also have to, right,
As long as there's no trespassing, that's the
there's
key.
a certain yardage or footage that we have to remain for the road, correct?
It's 40 feet.
40 feet wide.
So I would like to,
We don't know exactly where
that's what I would like to know, because I don't want their sign on 30 feet. I want it,
And the sign shouldn't be within the right of way.
right.
Correct.
So we don't know.
So I think that I really want to see where the right of way
it
is.
was also the orientation of the sign that was scaring people away, right? The way
Yeah,
it's
well, I mean,
facing.
right now it's just no
I
traffic.
think it's deceiving.
It is
It's posted, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although if the vegetation is 10 yards back from the actual road into the woods,
Well, that's.
I don't know if you want to put the sign on a tree that you...
I agree. I don't think it should
That's
be on
where
a
the right
tree.
way in the survey comes in.
Right.
But let's get the 40 feet, let's find out where it is, and then then we talk about signs.
Well, at least the ones he has on now, turn the right way, you know, to start.
I mean, should we come up with an agreement that by XYZ date, if they haven't done what they need to do, that we're not going to wait around any longer? Like,
Well, if they don't want to put no trespassing, I guess, if the sign is removed at the top of the road, if they don't want to put anything down the road, that's up to them. We could have something down at the property that says the Town of Old Lyme X, which is the property, without going into great detail, so people know where it starts and not wandering around. Because I think if you go into that property and you go left, you go past the boundary of our property and you're onto somebody else's.
yeah, you're back on the club's road.
And it looks like, I don't know if it's the clubs or...
It is, yeah. The club owns right down to the, like all this right
Okay,
here.
it butts it.
Yeah.
And you could even say, put a couple of signs in the woods saying private property, so that people wandering around don't go in there.
To that note, what I was thinking on I don't know if we're still in the middle of this motion, but while we're on this discussion of the property line, at least on the occupied abutters lot, Amanda's lot over there, I don't know anybody, they already kind of have a split rail fence somewhat close to the property line. So I don't know if anyone thinks it'd be worthwhile to put a split rail fence down the property line. So at least if people do come down, we're containing them within our...
Yeah, we're moving beyond signage. There's a motion.
We need to vote on that motion.
All right.
Yeah.
So we would just repeat the motion.
Yeah, so we've got to,
Yeah.
Got a lot of discussion.
okay, I believe the motion was to,
The public access sign and a sign at Blair's.
And
also sign at the beginning of the,
And orient.
Well, no, it said a public access sign was the one up top.
I said 3. Then my third one was the one to like
private property.
the private. Well, no, it was actually the public access down by the. He had asked whether you can get a boat in the water or not. Maybe that was my third sign, was to say rooftop carry boats only, or I don't want to see any boats down there right now personally, but maybe we put a caution wetlands ahead, do not trample, something to keep people out of the marsh. I don't know.
Well, that's on our property.
Well, we got to vote.
okay, let's take a vote on this.
Vote on sign.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
For signage, some sort of signage.
Well,
Specific,
Top of the hill and then,
something up on Buttonball Road
Right.
at the dirt road,
yes.
which we never got the language, and then a sign for Blair, and possibly a third sign at the property.
Back to 2. property and extent of town-owned land.
Well,
Motion was 3.
did we,
Ending the motion?
Yeah, so I'll amend the motion to 2 signs, one at the road and one somewhere in the property saying, this is the end of the town property. I feel, right now, cars are going to drive down and turn around in Amanda Blair's driveway because it's the only way they know to go.
Okay, so the motion's for sign at the top of the Buttonball, the driveway, and at the end to indicate the end of the property. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All against, say nay.
Nay.
Nay. So it's 3-2, so the motion doesn't carry.
So we do nothing for now then?
No, I think,
No, we entertain another motion.
I'd be happy to visit with Phil and about their signage and so forth and see what they're willing to do.
Would you guys be opposed to me calling Phil on speakerphone right now?
Yes.
yeah, we're in the middle of the meeting.
I don't know.
Yeah, I know, that's the purpose of the call, would be to have the discussion right now, so we don't have to push it out another week.
I think that
Phil, are you on the call by any chance?
Put them on the spot.
No.
Yes.
Okay, as another way to go forward with this, I know the trespassing signs have been a concern, and my suggestion is that a couple of us meet with Paul and Amanda and at least get the trespassing signs sorted out, and also put a time frame on that. You know, it's August, people are doing things, at the very latest by the end of the month.
I so move.
Okay, do you have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion on that?
Who's it going to be?
Okay, any volunteers for that? Mike and Tim?
To talk to Amanda and Mike and,
Phil?
Yep, and to sort out the signs so that they don't discourage people from going down the property. So we eliminate that barrier.
that makes sense to have
Just
them
at this point.
of course, yeah.
Okay,
Okay, I'll amend the motion that it's Mike and Tim.
to second that at all, or second amendment?
Second, yeah.
Okay, all right. Any?
Seconded by Sloan, motion made by John Beecham,
Thank you.
for Suzanne.
Any further discussion on that? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nay?
probably if we wanted to put signs on whatever I guess it would be, what direction is that? On the eastern end of the property, on the Black Hall abutting line?
Here's your driveway coming in, it would be superimposed this driveway continuing on.
Yeah.
Okay, Amanda's over here.
So this is the Black Hall property?
Yep, Black Hall here, Black Hall
So
there.
we would probably be okay to put some signage here to say, don't go beyond that point, just temporarily.
On our property.
On
the
our
town's
property. Just if people wandering around, they know that they shouldn't pass by there, whether they will or not, but at least it's not maybe an offensive keep out.
So are there 2 monuments along the right-of-way?
There's a monument, this monument's been recovered, this monument's been
So
recovered.
the beginning of the town property?
Yep, and the end, on Amanda Blair's end has been delineated.
Okay.
Is there anything over in this vicinity?
I didn't go that far down, but I could because it's down in the Tidal Creek, so there is a Tidal Creek, the end of that Tidal, so this monument matches up with the Tidal Creek that's out there. So as long as you can depict this Tidal Creek, which you...
How long has that moved?
Yeah, the Tidal Creek.
50 years.
Yeah, I don't think that's moving. The mosquito ditch.
Okay.
But really, it's only about 100 feet of upland before you get into the swamp, which I don't see who's walking in that anyway, but...
Okay.
Okay.
I've also seen a town sign, Open Space must have designed it on Chamberlain North. And one of the trails takes a right angle at the property corner, and so the trail used to extend onto the private property. They have a sign that says,
So you right away coming in?
you're leaving town property or something.
Is the old...
Oh, yeah, it's interesting.
It doesn't have to be keep out.
No.
Make it, they don't say that.
Yeah.
Oh, nice private property down there.
Private property.
And
Private property beyond this point?
Distinguished sign, yeah, private property down here.
And there's signs.
My concern is we put it in the wrong place, and then we do the survey, and then the survey says something else, and then the abutting property owner goes, that's not where the sign was.
Yeah, look, so
That's why we have a survey, though.
by the next meeting, Tim and Mike will give us the good news about the trespassing signs, and that's been all be sorted out.
I would
Okay.
also like to suggest that we look for someone local, in the spirit of keeping our economic development in our town. We have wonderful craftsmen and artists in this town that could create a beautiful wooden sign.
Yeah, I would like a sign with an actual map, so that you can also visually see where the property is.
That's probably down the road a
Because
little
it's so
bit.
sandwiched in.
So I really want it well thought out, but it would be nice if we used some of our local people to buy into
Unless you get the high school
this.
kids to do it as a senior project or something.
And, what?
Unless you get high school artists to do it as a senior project,
Right.
you know.
Okay, so we kind of transitioned into the,
Just saying.
to the next phase of this, which is our goals, okay? And I'd like to break that down to short-term goals, which I think we're discussing one of them now.
Right.
So let's talk about that. And spend a few minutes getting some ideas that we can act on, and then sort of more general ideas for longer term. So, anyway, so the short-term goal, obviously, one is better signage. And that would be at the top of the road?
Well, the shortest term goal is the stuff that Michael and I are gonna do with Black Hall.
Yeah, that's taken care of. Yeah, we're done. You guys are going to do that.
Name the property.
Okay.
Yeah, I would-
So the property.
I would
Have a
suggest,
contest.
McGowan Landing.
McGowan's put in the 4 Mile River boat ramp and that boat ramp.
I mean, they were the original property donors.
It was sold.
What? Okay. Who actually donated it?
State of Connecticut.
Right, but I mean, it was,
It was never donated. The only donation that occurred was from the state to the town.
okay.
Okay. Let's throw out some ideas and we
Feeling
can think about
I don't
it.
think we should go to naming the property right at the moment.
No, I mean, it's
No,
the goal, not immediate.
So my thought here is just to start throwing out some names that we can think about. We don't have to do it today. That's not the idea. So McGowan Landing, I heard. Any others?
I like the Horseneck Creek idea.
Yeah, I like that too, because it
Horseneck Creek.
enhances, or it enhances the name of the historical significance of the creek that gives a lot of,
Which gives truly the access to the river.
yeah.
Okay. I mean, Black Hall River access or something along that. So-
Too wordy.
It's kind of bland.
And it would,
Okay.
Too
That's fine.
too prominent, you know. We need to keep this thing under wraps.
Seems to be some consensus around the Horseneck Creek, people like that.
Well, there might be others, you know.
Yeah, okay, so I'm just throwing it out there, and maybe in your discussions with people in town, just come up with ideas. We don't have to do this today. This is going to happen later on.
Are we discussing short-term goals? Can I
Yeah.
talk about another one?
Absolutely.
In the short term, again, I understand the survey and that's coming shortly, but assuming that we don't have a completed survey within a month, I'd like to see some minimal landscape improvements, like within the existing
Upland.
upland.
So that would be Public Works.
That,
Well,
I'd be
to the
willing,
extent, see how much we're talking about.
What I'm thinking is,
I was gonna say, what do you think Eddie would say about that, doing that?
Depends, I mean, if
Yeah.
it's clear cutting the whole thing.
no, but I'm saying like, so
I just threw
Not
a
a hammer knife mower, just bring that down.
if you remember, previously, the abutter was maintaining the right-of-way coming in on both sides with, mowing, and now it's just kind of growing all scrubby.
Well, she'll resume once things normalize, let's put it that way.
She said that?
Yeah,
Amanda has indicated that to me as well. She'd be willing to take care of the side of the road.
but she didn't want
Yeah.
to kick the hornet's nest at this point.
Yeah,
Which I understand, but I think for us,
yeah.
I think it'd be worthwhile right in the immediate future, like, I'd like to see it soon. I mean, I know I'm a little impatient, but not really.
say we get the survey, in our next meeting, we can take the survey and go and say, okay, we can
Make some
clean
parking
that
here.
up. Yeah, we can.
The wetlands will make a deal, because then you can figure out parking without interfering with wetlands. And
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll put
Okay,
that on.
can that follow the
That's a short-term
wetland
goal,
survey?
I agree.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah,
So, do I make a motion for that?
No.
I'm just gathering ideas for our next meeting.
Yeah.
I'm gathering ideas for our next meeting to put on the agenda, yeah.
Yeah, identify a parking area.
So here's my, I guess you can't do that. Even though you get the survey and everything like that, and you go do a site walk, but last time you couldn't talk at the site walk, can you have the meeting there and determine where you want parking, or is that, and make decisions there?
I don't see why not.
Like, it's a mobile meeting, it's not like in a building, you know?
That would make sense, I should think.
I mean, I
You
can
have
have
the survey,
sidewalks
walk
for you.
around and look and say, okay, let's make sense to put parking here, instead of like looking at a map here.
You can frame it up and then come back and have a meeting and then make motions.
But it's like in the Wetlands though, they've done meetings where the person who records the meeting comes and they have dialogue.
We try to limit it. We try not to have anything substantive discussed. So if we do it administrative.
Well, what would be the purpose of not doing it? I guess it'd be good, because last meeting we kind of really went there and wasted a little bit of time, in my opinion, if we weren't able to discuss anything.
Well, I think
Useful to me.
wetland agency is different than we
Yeah.
are.
I mean, I think we'd have to post it as a public meeting and have someone take notes.
Yeah, because they're subject to litigation should they decide something and some opponent or neighbor be opposed to it and they weren't invited to the meeting and here's the discussion. But for us, I don't really see why, so long as you take the minutes,
Yeah.
people are invited to attend the meeting,
People went to the last one.
you
People
know.
on the site walk.
I don't see
Yeah,
why
we
we
have to-
couldn't have a working
We have to
meeting on the site.
But you
post
could
it,
come back
post the location and.
No one can appeal our
take
decision.
minutes.
I feel like if you're there in person, the dialogue is more important than coming back here. If you're not walking it, you're not feeling it, you're not touching it, saying, okay, let's clear to here, let's clear to
All right,
here.
so you have a site walk at 1 o'clock, and then you have a meeting, you break, and you have a meeting at 3 o'clock or something, and then you...
Are we opposed to having the meeting there?
I'm not.
Well, it's handicap accessibility might be an issue. I mean, you could raise a lot of goblins as to why making decisions on the property.
Especially
Good idea.
I like to see it staked out in the field.
I think we have to see the stakes and see where things are.
Hey, have a
I
parking.
mean, we should take the lead from people who do see sidewalks, and you're saying it's informational, but you don't do substantive motions and stuff, right?
We don't do substantive discussion, so if we go somewhere and it's you know, a swimming pool application and it's 4 feet over into the upland review area, somebody just says, you know, hey, make a motion to do an administrative approval. And if anybody had an objection or discussion, then it's not going to happen. We would bring it back to the meeting, and if everybody votes yes, then that's it. We do administrative approval.
The other thing that we could do is, okay, so we have the map. The boundaries are all laid out in the field, so everybody's not, where are we kind of questions. I mean, even though some of the boundaries have corners marked, you still, you know, it'd be nice just to see the straight line. A group of us, 2 or 3 people could go out and after we've discussed something and say, okay, we would like to have parking in this area and we have a couple of stakes and some string and you just do it.
100-foot tape.
Yeah, and then we go all come out and look at it.
To me, this is different. Like your sidewalks are more enforcement or looking at applications that are pending.
Yes.
Whereas if we have a...
We're doing design.
We're trying to create. You know, we're a working group.
Yeah.
We should be able to have dialogue out there in the field without having to come back here and...
Of course, the only problem is we can't control the weather, so if we post a meeting and then
Monsoon.
it's a thunderstorm, then
Yeah, well, that's, you know,
Yeah, that's
you
part of
just
it. Might be an
postpone.
issue.
Your wetlands change.
Yeah, right.
But I don't see why, you know, anybody that wanted to help lay out stuff before we had an official meeting on the site so the public could see it,
Why can't we just meet there first for a half an hour and then come back here?
to do that too.
I mean,
This is a suggestion.
That's what we did last time. It really wasn't a lot of content.
Well, it takes time to work this stuff out.
But for those,
No,
like-
it's very useful to me.
we'll have a laptop.
if we have everyone has a small map of the survey
Yep.
and is able to sketch out their ideas and then come back and say, okay, and then we make the decision.
Yeah, I mean,
And it can be online and recorded.
I agree with your frustration of the mechanics of this. It seems like it's not necessary, but if that's what the protocol calls for, I think, you know, going and staking things out, us all go visiting it, and if we have to come back and have a quick meeting, make it official, we'll do it that way.
You know, I mean,
It's going to take all a little more
tree
time.
cut, you could We could
It's
flag
all
that
legit.
tree, has
Okay.
a ribbon around it or something.
Now, one question about the survey. Gates was saying it's quite flat. Do we want topo?
I thought we would
Yeah.
get some spot elevations. I don't know that we need,
We definitely need a little bit of topo
Yeah.
along the wetland upland interface.
but there's some piles of fill there and stuff.
In our previous
Well,
note,
that-
we said we wanted
Piles of
spot
fill.
elevation.
Yeah, but the lot itself is generally pretty flat consistently across the whole lot,
As you say, it's right where the wetlands meets the
Well, the
upland.
only reason I would want the topography of the slope, so I would say we want topography on the slope of the wetlands. Because that way, if we ever do have a gangway, we're able to show a cross-section based on where the top of elevation is coming across the marsh. So obviously, topo is going to add a little bit, it might add a little bit of expense to the cost of the survey as opposed. See, I want to make sure that we're clear with Mr. Gates that we already have a survey. We're just looking for updated information on the survey. So we need somebody to redraw this digitally, flag the wetlands, and shoot a couple topo shots along with the right-of-way.
Does it take off?
When we have a proposal, if you had a walkway or something going out to get a view or for whatever reason, you could get a detailed topography, spot elevations along the.
Right, that's where it's gonna take off from.
So he doesn't have to do the whole property, it's just.
Yeah, that's my point. is
Takeoff point for this.
We just work on this little bit of area where we think, based on where DEP said they'd like to see a gangway or their best option for a potential gangway, I do think we need some topography on this old boat ramp and then along the wetland line. Just from a,
So Michael, why don't you sit with Tim when he calls Mr. Gates
yeah,
or Snarsky, or if they want to come in,
I would say I'd like to be part of that conversation.
and then that way you can explain what it is that we need so that he's got it.
I could go with topography or spot elevations, and you explain what you want to do and approximately where you want to do it.
Yeah, I'm not saying we need the whole thing.
There.
By any means. I'm not trying to make you go out there and waste a bunch of time. I'm just trying to get what I know we would need if we were going to
Right.
make an application.
Got it.
Okay, so just for the timing on this,
Matt has 5 minutes.
Yeah, I got a 9 o'clock hard stop, I'm sorry.
let's try to wrap it up.
No offense, I got another job.
We other jobs.
Just real quick, do we want to wait for the parking delineation until the survey is done?
I would say
Yes.
yes, and that would,
Yeah.
that's what we
I think you have to right away.
Okay, just to be clear on that. Okay, look, because we're running short on time, and we have plenty to do with our short-term goals, I'm going to postpone the discussion of our longer-term wishes and hopes and desires until the next meeting. Okay, and then, in terms of the next meeting, look, I'm going to be away out of town from August 19th to September 9th. So
Well, good trip, I hope.
it's going to be an excellent trip, and I'm not going to be paying attention to what's going on. So,
Where are you going?
I'm going to France,
Oh,
3 weeks.
Good for you. Excellent.
Okay, so look, we could try to squeeze in a meeting before I leave, or we meet shortly after I get back. My preference, I know it's not going to make you happy, is to wait until I get back. 'cause-
Well, I think by that time we'll have the survey.
And we have to wait
Well,
for some
that's
of
what
this,
we need to find out.
we have to wait for these surveys to come in. So I don't think, again, it's going to slow things down a bit, but it's not realistically going to damage our progress. So I'm suggesting we get together, sometime shortly after I get back on the 9th.
You want to try to schedule it?
I'm happy to go. Now, also, in terms of times, is the morning time generally good?
I'd rather do an 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
How do other people feel about it? Because evenings get pretty busy. Okay.
Want to do September 13th, which is a Tuesday? You should be back on USA time.
13th would be fine. Again, I'll send out a doodle and pick out some other times, but, okay. So I'll offer some times that week, in the morning and
Can everyone-
in the evening.
We got everybody here practically.
Is everybody okay with September 13th?
Yes.
Is anybody opposed to doing one meeting before you leave? I just feel like it's a whole other month and 10 days.
The whole trick now is to get Snarsky and
Yes.
Gates on the
We're
line.
going to have a meeting with Tim and Snarsky and Gates. You're going to get stuff done.
We got the committee,
We can
he's
always-
engaged.
We can always call something if there's a,
Right, if things go inordinately quickly. We can,
And-
right with Gates.
and just technically, all these meetings are special meetings
Oh,
because, because at the end of the year, before the new year, you put your schedule of meetings out.
oh,
And if you have meetings other than the schedule or you're new, then it's a special meeting.
So they're all special meetings regardless.
Yeah, these are all special.
Pretty much for us this year.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And we're not going to get in a knot about special meetings because you're supposed to discuss the items on the agenda only.
Gotcha.
You know, this is
I did.
kind of the cats are moving around.
Yep, yeah.
Okay, so quickly, I know we want to get moving on with our day.
So then you responded to me and said, I'll get that.
8 o'clock on the 13th, next meeting?
Yeah, works.
Work for everybody?
Yes.
What day is the week
Excellent.
is that?
That's a Tuesday. Okay, super, thank you. Quickly, any public comment?
I was looking for meeting day.
Okay, I don't hear any. And motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Second.
Like really.
Okay,
John Meacham, second.
thank you very much.
That's it.
8:59.
Yeah. And I have a copy of the recording if anybody would like me to send it to them.
And on the 14th.
We'll do that.
Okay, and how do I end the meeting on this?